You know what it is? It's Lukey. I had to get my guy, the biggest boss of them all, Abe G. That's Fights ATW. It's fresh off of WrestleMania season, so he's back with the boxing. Abe, how is your beautiful and illustrious website doing?
Oh, good, man. We are rocking and rolling, and just put up a Q&A piece on director Steve Reed by David Phillips, In the Company of Kings is a boxing documentary. It's coming out at the end of the month. So take a look at that if you're on the website, and some Haney Garcia stuff, some wrestling stuff, and yeah, just scroll through it, give it a look over.
Without sounding like down and out losers, which I feel like boxing podcasts have a real good way of doing. Like it's just like a lot of men trying to tell you this is let's just say the same things everybody says. Like that's a lot of boxing podcasts, but some get angry, some are chill. Let's just kind of briefly hit on last week's fight. I'm a big Jared Anderson fan. I think he has a lot of potential. He fought a guy who didn't come to fight to go rounds, who basically, in my opinion, strategically came into this fight knowing if he went 10 rounds, he could make probably a lot of money being the guy that went rounds with Jared Anderson. Other prospects will fight him. That being said, it's clear to me Jared is closer to being a prospect than he is a contender based on this performance. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. This definitely didn't help him. Obviously, this fight was for him to, elevate and for people to get excited about and kind of forget about all the stuff outside the ring. But instead, this kind of turned some people off. And now he's got this homecoming in the summer that was announced. And it's like, with Arum kind of saying 2025 and Tim Bradley saying 2026 before he's getting like the title shot, seems like the can keeps getting kicked down the road. But how do you keep people's interests up to that point if you're trying to be creative with the matchmaking and the creativity kind of hits a wall like it did on Saturday?
Well, I think it's a tough spot for Brad Goodman and Bruce Trampler to be in, right? Because you got a guy who I think all of us agree is entertaining enough outside of the ring with his the way he comes out like a race car driver and all this stuff. He's fun. And when he knocks guys out, it's viral. But it reminds me of Berlanga, right? With Berlanga, he's really fun, but then we wanted him to be the finished product and he needed to go his rounds. And I think it's a hard modern conundrum where you get these people that are star personalities, and when they're in that development stage that 10 or 11 years ago would have been on toprank.com under Manny Pacquiao cards, develop rather anonymously and then kind of filter into the main card. Now he's being entrusted because of his success to be a headliner, and then you have all of your trials and tribulations both in and out of the ring in the public spotlight.
Yeah, it didn't help that he kind of downplayed the incident in that little segment, and yeah, there was some people that reacted to that kind of like, what is this guy saying? Maybe he shouldn't just comment at all about the situation until it's all over. But with Jared Anderson, I think, listen, the co-main kind of served, options for him because those guys, are vulnerable and they have some sort of name attached to them. So why not do, Anderson with Efe Ajagba? Only problem is they got the same manager, and I don't know how that's gonna work. Or maybe Vito, gets another shot. Even though it seemed like it was like a pink slip fight, as they were saying it. Maybe he gets a shot. He, look shot enough in to for Jared Anderson to kind of get a big win over him.
I mean, look, whoa. Let's bump the brakes here. I'm kind of curious on your thoughts on Jared's stuff outside of the ring. How much do you think that matters? I guess is one question I have because part of me is performances in the ring only and like it's not like we have a bunch of accountants and lawyers in boxing, is what I'm saying. We got like a bunch of crazy guys. It's a lot of people who have, in my opinion, short-term thinking. They're like, let's beat people up and make a ton of money. That's why we see a lot of Gucci. We don't see a lot of people going, I'm going to go to Vanguard and invest money. And we see a lot of boxing short-term thinking because I think it draws in people with short-term mindsets. How how do you assess someone having kind of at the beginning of their stardom, we could say, having some issues outside of the ring that possibly could be leading into issues in the ring.
Yeah, it's very alarming, especially because he's still young in the game. Kind of gives you, some thoughts of like an early Mike Tyson, right? And having the issues of juggling success and a career and everything else, and personal struggles. So it kind of gives off those type of vibes. It's concerning. And if you're top rank, what do you do? Like, do you play the long game and just kind of keep doing baby steps towards that title shot in a couple of years, or because it just doesn't seem like you know uh one person is their thoughts and opinions match what Jared Anderson's trying to do. He's kind of implying that he wants the big names now, while Top Rank is like we're gonna slow roll this thing. So I think there's some patience that will be required from both ends for two different two totally different things. But yeah, I mean it's alarming right now. We just have to see if all parties involved can remain patient and kind of go weather the storm a little bit and then play the long game.
My big thing is it kind of reminds me of Shawnee Monahan, where Shawnee was a huge New York ticket seller and he was always waiting for his big fight. And they're like, next fight. And there's a level of like, here's a great heavyweight who's exciting. We have no clue when he's going to step up. And that's the basically what I'm hearing.
Yes. Yes, we don't know. And then so what do you do? Do you do him against, one of the guys from the co-main from this past Saturday
Well, I don't
next
think
or
you
not?
can because first
Yeah.
off, we'll just jump into this. FA to me is having like an amazing run that no one cares about. Like he's won four basically fights he could have lost, but he's doing them in like unspectacular ways. So people are like, he's almost got like the Canelo. You know, when Canelo loses to someone, he becomes them. So like he lost to Floyd, and then he loses to Golovkin, he becomes Golovkin. He loses to Bivol, and then he just kind of wants to retire. Then he kind of just fights other fights. But I don't see FA fighting Jared because I think they're former sparring partners and they have a relationship, and I think they've said that they don't want to fight. And what did you think of that fight? Because I thought it was a clumsy and awkward fight. I didn't find it all that entertaining.
Yeah, it was, I mean, it was heavyweight boxing. And heavyweight boxing isn't supposed to be like this technical masterpiece thing. Is really people tune into heavyweight boxing to see two guys slug it out, without so much of the technical part of it. So I think that's what we got for the first half of the fight. The middle half of the fight was the middle rounds was like, and then towards the end, you know, the guy was given FS some issues in the last two rounds, which made it a close fight. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's heavyweight boxing. I don't look too deep into it to give me too much of a technical fight.
I respect FA because he's like first ballot Hall of Very Good. Probably never going to be a Hall of Famer, but he's on a really good run. It's not really that fun to watch per se, but like winning should matter and like fighting hard fights should like you should get praise, but boxing is more the circus, like we know this weekend. And I just think that it's kind of a shame that like Efe Ajagba right now is the most active and possibly most interesting heavyweight in the division, and he isn't really even moving the needle in any way.
Yeah, what impressed me the most was his uppercut because for a long time, as you know, it was 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, like the left and then the right down the middle. That was his whole game, and him implementing the uppercut and kind of showing off a little bit of head movement in certain spots. That to me was impressive.
Yeah, I think also like when you have a guy like Guido who's leading with his head, like the best way to get to a punch in there is an uppercut. But to me, there's a level like so Efe Ajagba is as robotic as I think people say Anthony Joshua is. Like Joshua is a lot more fluid than Efe, but Efe is a guy who understands he's tall, he hits hard, he can stick a jab out and he can throw a right hand. the problem with him, and we saw it in this fight, is he gets stuck in spots. Tim Bradley talked about it, but he's so robotic. There's transition issues, and you can kind of see the end coming when he fights an elite level fighter. We saw it with Usyk, but if this was the Bermane Stavern era of heavyweight boxing, who's to say he wouldn't be a dominant champion? I think it's also kind of the era he's in.
Yeah, and right now I can see him, if they don't do the, let's say they don't do the Anderson fight, I could see him against, Dubois or Joyce, any of those guys in the UK, fighting them and doing that. And because there's really nobody else. Who else are you gonna fight? Michael Hunter? I
I mean,
mean,
just to say it, FA sadly is just gonna take another highly competitive, uninteresting fight.
yeah.
That's what he's in. He's in highly competitive fights that, I mean, for us, we go, oh, I guess I'd watch it. But like there's no fight that's like, oh man, this is his fight. So I mean, I don't know how that changes, but I just want to always give him respect because like he's basically on a 15, 16-month run that we don't really see in modern boxing of activity, taking fights where they're 50-50 fights, winning. And I think it's a little unfair that like because he's not doing it in the most like scintillating way, people are like, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, I do like the fact that he's, being active, right? And he keeps getting these fights. I think he's gonna get knocked out at some point. And he'll go down in flames. And I think that it'll make for an entertaining fight if he fights somebody that equals that style.
See, I think he's live against a lot of people because I think these fights are building him more because most fighters aren't taking these type of challenges. So I think people are going to be surprised when he steps up. He's one of the most battle-tested heavyweights now. I think him and Frank Sanchez are two of the most dangerous guys. Fight I want to see is Richard Torres versus Efe. I think that's the fight.
Yeah.
Isn't that an interesting stylistic matchup? Like, how does that play out?
Yeah, because Richard Torres is going in there and he's throwing caution to the wind. And man, I would enjoy that fight. I don't know if that might be too much too soon for Torres as far as experience level. But Torres is another guy. Like, what do you do with Torres? Like he's been getting these like kind of mediocre guys, and hello, it's time for him to start fighting some real guys in there.
Well, he's taking a step up. He's fighting undefeated Brandon Moore. That's a step in the right direction.
Yeah,
I think that he'll win that fight, if we're being honest. And then I think the next answer is can Torres fight a guy who's big? And I think
yeah.
that's possibly where FA fits in because it feels like FA is having to fend off people in the division. That's the role he's serving. And it seems like a lot of people don't like that role. It seems like FA is actually enjoying being a guy that's like, no, you're not on my level and fighting people off of his spot. Boxing in the modern era has been like people punching up. FA's been very content to be like, no, you're not coming to my spot in the rankings, yet he's not kind of fighting the guys above him.
Yeah, and then Richard Torres is speaking of that, he's fighting on that San Diego card, if I'm not mistaken, in May, with Navarrete and Baranicek. So
Little
yeah,
Charlie
I'm
Sheehy in the building too.
little Charlie Sheehy in the building. So your boy Abe is gonna definitely be there for that one. Maybe we get a Lukey appearance too.
We
Maybe.
might. You never know. It's possible. Let's go. Couple guys I want to just circle over real quick because this is like we really don't need to talk much about boxing this past weekend. Hobbs and Kotzkow, I really like him. I think he's really good. I think he's really professional. I think he's like Efe Ajagba, always in shape, always comes prepared. And because he's not the most interesting fighter and he doesn't talk a gang of crap, people are like, oh, this guy's so boring. I just think that and once again, Hall of very good. Be nice if he won a world title. He had Oscar Valdez fail a drug test, and I think he probably beat him. And then he also had Shakur miss weight. Those are two of his three world title shots. His other world title shot was a draw that he arguably won. I think he's a guy that's had a lot of misfortune in his career, and we could be looking at a guy that we view as the best fighter in the division. Ruben Villa, very close to a featherweight title. That's really cool to see. He fought a guy that sparred in a way and was really tough. And I'm not sure if you caught this. Pork Chop Guerrero upset Jalen Walker in his top ranked debut. stops him. Very, very unsettling when someone has a top ranked debut and they lose it. That's not very common. Any of those things stand out to you?
You forgot Abdullah Mason.
I
Abdullah
mean,
Mason.
he's stud.
Yeah, he's like a stud, man. And he's a guy that I want to see more of. Yeah, with Robinson, it's interesting because he had the eight round fight, and I feel like that was just kind of like a stay busy because they're gonna put him in with, a big name next again. And
Maybe shock. Like I don't
yeah,
know
that's
anything, but
that
like maybe like I'm trying to think of like who it could be. Maybe
that's
Lamont
what I was
Roach
thinking.
Jr.
Yeah, Lamont Roach Jr. or Shockey Foster. That's what I can see next for him. And yeah, I mean he probably is the best fighter in the division, even though he's had those losses or whatever. But man, he comes in tremendous shape, and there's no quitting him.
I'm have a soft spot for guys that are true professionals that people overlook, but they're never like, let me get on the internet and call people bad names. They show up every time. They stay loyal to their team. I mean, I think a guy like Koskow, if this was a real sport, like people would acknowledge him more, but there's a circus element to boxing where people want to see like bad behavior and bad attitudes. And a guy like Koskow, it's like Raymond Danger Muratalla. I think he's amazing, yet he doesn't get the prestige because he's a professional. And I always try to reward people that I feel are very professional. I think Koskow, you look at how he comes to fight, like he works extremely hard. He's not on the Lukey workout program for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure. Like man, that dude was in tip-top shape
Yeah,
on
I
Saturday.
almost think he might be too buff. He might be benefit from moving up because he's shredded. He looks like what every man that buys Muscle and Fitness magazine for the summer, they want his physique. Like
Yeah.
that's everybody's dream. Like, what's the routine?
Yeah, no, I mean, but going back to him, yeah, I think he gets a big fight next, and probably by the summertime.
How far is Abdullah Mason from being on TV cards?
Ooh, um, I would probably continue to keep him on the ESPN Plus side, probably for the rest of the year, and then start putting him on the main telecast at the top of the year.
Okay. Okay.
I don't want.
Maybe
I
December.
would
Maybe December.
December, yes. Heisman night. That would probably be the best time.
What ideal opponent would you put him in with?
Oh, probably not gonna like this when I say this, but a faded JoJo Diaz.
That hurts my heart, man. But JoJo, I don't even think is a 135er anymore. I'm trying to think of who I mean, I think I'd look for somebody that has a really good record. As my guy Aaron Navarro says, the tiger suit. Look for someone that's wearing a tiger suit, a 16 and 0, a 20 and 0. They're always out there. There's a guy that has a manufactured record and just get him on TV and you got this great record and the guy comes in a nice ring outfit and then you see a first round or second round knockout. Think that would be pretty good TV viewing for the viewer. Let's get into because you're Mr. Pop Culture. You got cool stuff in the background. I'm about as uninterested in Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia as anyone, and it's not because I don't like Devin Haney. I'm actually a huge Devin Haney fan. I enjoy Ryan Garcia, but I just think that the undertone of this fight is, for lack of a better word, Ryan Garcia's immaturity on the internet and the intrigue is he training hard? I think, at least to me, maybe you can correct me, but I think for me, I'm wondering, is he in shape? And to me, that isn't exciting because I just feel like Devin's going to dominate this fight based on his mindset, based on how he's behaving. I don't think you can behave how Ryan's behaving and cross world championship thresholds. I think that level of immaturity sneaks into your fight. So I'm curious, what from a pop culture standpoint am I missing? And what maybe am I just missing from being a washed up, jaded guy who just lives in this office?
I tell you, this fight is definitely not for the hardcores. This fight is what you just said. It's the casual audience, the pop culture audience. Look, I give you an example of what we're really looking at, right? So the Zone just announced that they are having this random and I was trying to pull up the name here, but some random influencer that's hosting the oh, here we go. Emily Austin. I've never heard of Emily Austin, but when you go into her page, she's got like 2 million followers and all this and all that. But she's gonna be the zone social presenter. Like that's just to kind of give you an example of what this is. This is that. It's the show. And Devin Haney knows exactly that. He knows that this is the fucking show. Like this is his opportunity to level up his profile with the non-traditional fight fans. That's all this is. Because you know more than any that Haney, he's not like the guy or you say his name to a casual fan, they'd be like, oh yeah, I know who Devin Haney is. He's not. He's not like you saw when they did the Saudi Arabia fights and Deontay Wilder walked into the room and people were rushing him to take pictures. Devin Haney was there sitting by himself and nobody approached him for nothing. And that's not a diss to Devin Haney. He's a great fighter. It's just that he's a quiet, reserved guy, outside of like the jury and the cards and all that. That people just don't know. And so this fight will get him at least towards the direction of people knowing who he is outside of boxing. And it's it, man. This is the pop culture fight. Ryan's been doing the Bobby Altaloff podcast and doing all this, all that, and just getting all these
What do
different
you
information.
think of? Yeah, I get that you're being professional, but let's get you unprofessional here. You're getting a little too professional for me. This sounds like a courtroom litigator, where you ever talk to a litigator and they just kind of give you a bunch of no answers. Like that could quite possibly be that, but like, wait, he didn't even answer the question, but it's so right. So what do you think of Ryan Garcia's behavior in the lead up to this fight?
It's been weird. It's been weird. I'm I'm not sure if it's him being a super smart guy or him falling apart in front of our eyes or both. I mean, it's really hard to say. Outside looking in, it seems like he's falling apart. Unless you're there on the day to day, you just don't know, right? And so it doesn't seem like he's trained for this fight. It doesn't seem like he's in condition. You see he purposely kind of like blocks his lower half of his stomach in a lot of the pictures. And
I want to
so
speak to that. I'm gonna interrupt because I'm a rude host.
okay.
I noticed that the pacing of his media workout was kind of slow. And I noticed that the intensity of the punches was at a measured pace. And I could be wrong. It looked as though he was not tired, but it looked as though like he didn't have a ton of energy for a very scripted rehearsal, whereas Devin was like the opposite. It was like high intensity. I'm going to push. I'm actually building up to this media workout where you're gonna leave and think I never want to be a pro boxer. Kind of left startled with just how passive and slow the workout was. His ripping on the heavy bag clips that I saw on YouTube was basically him placing shots like old school fighters, kind of like how I've seen Danny Jacobs placing shots, working on placement. But I've never thought of Ryan Garcia as a guy like Danny Jacobs who places shots. I've seen him as fast twitch explosion. So I just want to be rude and say all that. But what do you think of that observation?
Yeah, with that also, we haven't really seen a lot of Derrick James in a lot of these clips, right? It's been a lot of his father
Wearing
with him.
sunglasses too.
Yeah.
Like I can't unsee that. Like to me, as someone that's held mitts, like I would think about glass going into my eye. Like that's a dangerous move.
Yeah, yeah. And so I don't know, like everything about Ryan for this fight is just weird, man. It's different. I don't know, like it's
The dark web element, the conspiracy theories, I'm really uncomfortable with it. The all of that stuff, jumping on with impressionable people seemingly and just saying weird stuff, an unhinged nature to it, I'm not enjoying. And Derek James kind of giving no answers about Ryan Garcia, I think is speaking volumes to me. One quote from his media day is Ryan Garcia could be as good as he wants to be. Not really a glowing endorsement, but it really stood out to me. And then they asked Beto, who, great guy. We both like Beto a lot. Said, what might people not know about Ryan? Well, he works hard and he's a really nice guy. It just, these aren't statements I feel I want to hear going into a pay-per-view fight. It feels like Derek's saying what he's trying to do, but he's also telling us that there's some resistance in a coded way, is what I'm interpreting.
yeah, you get the feeling like Ryan is gonna wing it. Like he feels like he doesn't have to put that much effort into it, and he can just go in there and wing it. I don't know if that's such a great idea. I don't think that's smart, and I don't think that's gonna pay out for him. And if you're Devin Haney, maybe kind of let him get his shots off a little bit in the early rounds, let him gas out, and then just take him into deep waters and drown him.
I mean, does this, without being a hater on the front line, does this fight even happen? Is there a chance this fight doesn't happen?
You know, there was a lot of that talk leading up to this. Honestly, I didn't think it was going to make it to fight week, but here we are. We are on
Let
fight
me
week.
throw something to you.
Yeah.
How stressful is this weigh-in going to be? Because
I think
imagine if the weight isn't made.
I think for Ryan is going to be really he it just even though he was talking about the tank, the 136 or whatever it was, 137. I still think that 140 will still be a stretch for him. He's like a big kid. And I still think that 140 is going to be tough for him, and he might have to be killing himself to make it.
When I'm just saying, like, I don't know. Like, Ryan's had a lot of these weird weight change the week of the fight things over the past couple of years, like, whoops, it's at 140. Didn't need it. And like this fight, there's going to be no whoops, it's at another weight. I'm sure Devin will fight him unless it's over. But I guess my fear is, given his unpredictable behavior, I'm kind of expecting the weigh in to be weird.
Yeah, I mean, he he fought at 140? No. Like the Duarte fight
Didn't they
was
change Fortuna last minute? Or which one was
yes.
with the
Well,
last, or was it Duarte? Like two of them were
both.
like,
Both of them. So Duarte was at 143, I think, or 144 or something. Fortuna was at 138, I think it was, or
this is
something like
sick. You're
that.
just going off the dome. I'm not even going to research it.
Yeah,
I'm
but it
not
was
even going to
them.
research it. That's real boxing stuff.
Yeah, it was them too, though, for sure, that they changed the weight. I remember that Fortuna was really upset about that whole situation. And then the Duarte, that came out like the day before the weigh, no, moments after the weigh-in that they said, oh, yeah, we changed the weight to whatever, he's not over type of thing. So,
I think that what
yeah.
scares me is Devin's becoming an interesting fighter. He just had the best performance of his career, and the immature behavior of Ryan Garcia has overshadowed the rise of a really interesting American fighter who seems to be chasing legacy and greatness. And Devin has fallen into the background because he's behaving like a professional athlete. Sure, his dad, Bill, talks some trash here and there, but they're really behaving like professionals. They're just in the gym, working out, back home in the gym. The outlandish behavior of Ryan Garcia has been the show, but I think it's a little sad that like really Devin should be the show. Like the Ryan Garcia, because me from the outside looking in, this feels like a train wreck. And people are watching because it feels like it's a train wreck.
No, it is. And let me tell you, with Devin Haney, would it have been, the event that it's gonna be, if it was just him? Like if you
Of
watch
course not.
yeah, because if you watch the 40 Days episode 2 was heavily focused on Devin Haney, and I didn't get any excitement out of it. It was, he's just because I mean, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just his character isn't what, you know,
He's just a
the,
fighter. He's
yeah,
a guy that wants to fight the best fights, and the matchups have to create the intrigue. It's not going to be him. He's a guy who
yeah,
every day he goes to the gym, he wears some funny clothing, drives luxury cars, but he takes his funny clothes and his luxury cars to and from the gym and his house, and that's his
yeah,
life.
yeah, yeah, and you can't knock that, right? It's just, it's
I think
right
social
now.
media ruined like the rich guy cool card thing because now too
Yeah.
many people have cool cars and are rich. So like that used to be cooler on 24/7 when less people saw like here's a Bugatti with Floyd. Now it's like you go on and there's 20 influencers driving a Bugatti and like this is the inside of a Bugatti. So I think that some of that has also been like taken away over time.
Yeah, you could thank Jake Paul and Logan Paul. I think they kind of um, watered all that down, really.
Yeah. Well, shout out to them. Really quickly on the undercard, we got Arnold Barbosa, our guy, both of our guys. We got Charles Conwell, Big Conwell, both of our guys. We got John Scrappy Ramirez taking on David Jimenez, banger of a fight. And we got Beck the Bully taking on someone who's undefeated, but I have no clue who he is. Um, it's a decent pay-per-view card, but you're really buying the card for the top fight. Although I do have a close connection to two of the fighters, so I'm going to be buying it probably more for Arnold and Conwell. I'm going to say like 90% of people are going to be mostly top heavy. Real quickly in our 7 minute sprint, what are your thoughts on this undercard?
Yeah, the fighter I want to see is Charles Conwell. I think everybody wants to see Charles Conwell and see what he looks like. He hasn't fought in a while, and people know that the people that know that Charles Conwell is the guy that could disrupt a lot of things at 154. He just needed to be active and fight. He's now a Golden Boy. Let's see what happens. And then Arnold Barbosa, hey, listen, he's there just in case. Just in case things go sideways on Friday's weigh-in. I, don't think that he won't be ready to step in. So this is kind of a stay busy fight for him, but he's gonna get a big fight soon too. So these are two guys that people should really pay attention to on Saturday because they're the next ones that are gonna get the big fights and the title shots.
Last one, Big Bang Zhang against Deontay Wilder has happened. Got announced today. Obviously, you're super biased to Big Bang Zhang. I'm not mad at that. But what are your initial thoughts? I will share mine because it just makes things move faster. I think Wilder's done, man. I just don't see a guy that's motivated anymore.
Yes, I like the fight. It's a dangerous fight for Zhang still, though, because he doesn't have like the big head movement. And I think that he would be open for that Wilder right hand if he's not careful later in the fight. So that is something that Zhang will have to watch out for with Wilder. Zhang's stay busy style. If he doesn't gas out late like he did against Parker would be would make for a good fight stylistically. I like it because there's potential on either one of those guys getting knocked out, and Zhang really needs this fight more than
They
Wilder's
both
already.
they both
Yeah,
need it
they
because
both need it. Yeah,
so that
I
like
think
Zhang's 40 and Wilder's in boxer years 40.
yeah, they both need it. Zhang, if he wins, can get the Joe Parker fight, maybe get the long desired, awaited fucking Joshua fight. So
I
we'll see.
mean, where's Andy Ruiz in all this?
I need to talk to his guy too because apparently they the Saudis have interest in bringing Andy Ruiz. It's just I guess they just haven't found the right match.
Because I mean, that's the one thing is like I'm a fan of Andy Ruiz. I think he's a character and he's been missing from boxing for a long time now. And we need our cartoon character boxers to stay a little more active. It's definitely a really weird time in the sport. It feels like we're transitioning into it like a new non-television era.
Yeah, yeah, and it's I think we're gonna. I'm interested in seeing what these non-Prime Video pay-per-view cards look like and the rest of the year, and we'll see like where those guys that aren't in that upper tier at the PBC if they can stay active, finding fights. It looks like they've been trying to get on club shows and stuff. So it's going to be an interesting time to see, what boxing looks like for the second half of the year. Because we haven't really had a whole lot of cards out there.
Good for sure. Good ones for sure.
Yeah.
Abe, how can people best support you and all that stuff?
FightsATW.com at AbeG718 on X. I appreciate it as always. Thank you for the follow. Thank you for bringing me on your show, Lukey. And like always, man, all the best.
Okay, are you watching this weekend?
I am.
Okay, we had to make sure, that was the trick for those that were on the edge about listening to your tuning into the thing. We had to trick them to see if, we do that to boxing writers because every now and then you ask them, they go, actually, I'm not. That was a little. See, the real boxing writer is going to stay home to watch what I believe is going to be a largely uncompetitive fight, but it'll get a lot of headlines, and I'm sure there's going to be like a lot of teen heartthrobs there wearing. What do you think the ratio of like crazy outfits in the first five rows is going to be?
Ooh.
Like,
I
there's going to
don't
be someone looking to go viral for sure.
at all of them. And then it's 420. So they all gonna be high too.
Yeah, I hope. Does New York have good laws about it? Is someone going to the pokey if they get caught with it in New York?
No, I think it's legal down in New York.
Okay, good.
Um,
That's good because we don't need an influencer catching a case trying to get something into the Barclays, and then that we get a tabloid story that so and so went with their really cool influencer outfit and then got jammed up.
would I be surprised if they're selling Devin Haney versus Ryan Garcia smoke packs? I would not be.
Okay, here's a good prop bet. Boxing doesn't get good prop bets like this. I wish we had a sponsor for this. Prop bet that there's a vape in the arena, that when the fight happens, someone takes a vape, and doubling down on it. Do you think anyone on the broadcast crew makes reference to it smells a little funky in here?
For the first one, I'd say minus 200.
Okay, so that's a good one.
And for the latter, I'd probably give it like a 3-1 plus
Oh, I
300.
was gonna put plus 180. I was gonna say
Oh.
plus 180 because I think there's good odds on that. Yeah, it's going to be a weird atmosphere. If the fight happens, which I still have to say if, because I have reservations, I mean, it's going to be massive because of just how bizarre Ryan's behaving.
Yeah, and speaking of odds, Haney's like a 7-1 favorite right now, with decision being I think is at minus 150.
I love Haney knockout. What's the knockout play?
Oh, there's plus money on the knockout play.
I
Um,
I love betting $20 I never want to see again on that.
there is by knockout is plus 240.
Yeah, I'd love to put $20 I'd never want to see again and then buy us lunch. I'd get us a good sandwich, some soup, and you could get yourself an artisan drink while you're at it too. You know what? I think with that budget, we might even both be getting a dessert. So that I'd put $20 down and we just would go to town on that play. What do you think? Do you think knockout's a good play? And then we got it. Zoom's gonna kick us off.
Yeah, I'd say decision.
I'm going knockout. Okay, that's Abe. He's amazing. He's one of my close friends. And go to his website or else, don't. Like, it's boxing and people will say that they go and do stuff, but they don't. Abe G, he's tremendous. Check him out.